Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drake Wayne Gaming, and some of you on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you with a Let's Play episode of Sileo, Ty's Path. So let's go ahead and jump right back into it, shall we? Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. Alright. Abandoning that bald-faced lie, I remember the auditions for the Black Claws. An audition where a friendly acquaintance stole the show. I didn't know Jay all that well, but his infectiously cheerful nature, coupled with his elegant charm, was enough to enthrall almost everyone in his presence. His technical excellence and his obviously intimate knowledge of the band's catalog was such an incredible and hard-earned blend of talents. And skills and comprehensive knowledge that his audition, originally just another in a long line, would instead become the epic of unforgettable finale. If either Ty or Lucas still harbored any doubts beforehand, I felt certain that they had been addressed in full by the thundering notes of Jay's peerless performance. And the three of them, the brand new incarnation of the Black Claws, they had a bright future ahead. Of that I was certain. And Ty, my feelings only grew with each passing second. I was excited for work the next day, not because it was work, but because he would be there. Between everything that had transpired, I could barely contain my excitement as my mind ventured off on tangents, imagining various different possible futures and the happiness to be found within. I drifted off to sleep to the sound of my tail steadily beating back and forth beneath the covers, grinning with happiness and anticipation. I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Day 13. Yo, Hunter, can you pass me a soda? Doing as Diego had requested, I reached down to the brown paper bag resting to the side of my chair and retrieved a can of carbonated soda from the six-pack we bought only 10 minutes prior. In a refreshing change of pace compared to the typical morning meal with Diego, our breakfast that day, if you could consider such a late meal to be breakfast, took place in the local mall. And Diego, who despite his drastically improved financial situation, still seemed to struggle when it came to shedding the old frugal habits that served us so well in our university days. As such, rather than pay a premium for our beverages from the food court, Diego had insisted on buying a multi-pack from the grocery store instead. It was more economical by his reckoning. As I handed the drink to him, Diego wasted no time in cracking it open and taking several sizable and desperate gulps before even having fully swallowed his mouthful of donut. Finally, he swallowed the sugary combo, returning with a dramatic and exasperated groan of relief. That is the spot. Oh! A heads up, we've got company. I swiveled in my chair, following Diego's gaze that was directed over my shoulder and immediately to my rear. As I spun in place, I recognized a familiar face approaching our table. A tray containing a kebab and fries clutched firmly in the hand. Hey guys, sorry if I'm a bit behind schedule. I hope I haven't kept you waiting long. Not at all, we've only just sat ourselves down. Before Dom had even seated himself, his attention had been drawn to the unusual and unexpected sight that was Diego's tray. Donuts? I can't remember the last time you ordered anything that wasn't buffet, Diego. Yeah, well... You know what Diego's like, and the lady behind the counter was looking extra scary today. He decided he wasn't going to risk it. Wait, no? You know, Diego, you wouldn't have this problem if you didn't always overfill your plate. Hey, if she wants the people to take less food, she should start using smaller plates. Ain't my fault I like to get my money's worth. Diego scowled. In all fairness to him, I didn't exactly disagree with his logic, but he knew exactly the kind of response he would get if he overfilled his plate and still went and did it anyway. He certainly was stubborn, to say the least, if not something of a sucker for punishment. With an amused grin, Dom placed his tray in the open space to my right before fetching an unused chair from a nearby table. He sat himself down and grabbed several of his fries, eagerly tossing them into his mouth in anticipation. So, Dom, I take it you must have something pretty big if you're calling us out in person like this, huh? Earlier that morning, I had barely woken up when I received a call from Dom. He informed me that he had found out something more about Spencer and, in an unusual subversion of my expectations, asked us to meet with him at lunchtime in the food court. Both Diego and I were not due to start work until 2 p.m. and consequently had enjoyed something of a sleep-in. Not that waking up so late had done Diego any favors, as evidenced by his voracious appetite for caffeinated beverages and refined sugar. For whatever reason, despite having woken up later than I had, Diego seemed to be completely exhausted. Well, kind of. It's nothing that couldn't have been said over the phone, but I guess I thought it'd be nice, to meet up during my lunch break and tell you both in person. You really dragged me out of bed at this crazy hour because you wanted to hang out? Diego, I think you'll find it's after midday. Your point? Ugh. Sorry, I don't want to seem ungrateful or anything. It's just I've been working some crazy hours these last few days and, well, I didn't sleep well last night. I understand, Diego. I'll be sure to communicate my intentions better next time. That's on me. Don't mind him, Dom. We have work at 2 p.m. anyway. He'd be just as awake and just as grumpy regardless of our plans. I could have squeezed in another half hour. Would have made all the difference. Come on, Diego, cheer up. Maybe you'll be a little bit less grumpy when you hear what it is that I've found. Diego sighed, his own stubborn crankiness promptly dispatched by his insatiable curiosity as he stuffed another donut into his gaping maw before once again washing it down with a gluttonous swig of precious caffeine. Ugh, fine. You win, I'll bite. Let's hear it. That's the spirit. So, I told you both yesterday about this Solomon guy. Well, I couldn't find anything more in the archives about him. It's like I said, just like Spencer, he's a total ghost. I scoured the archives for hours, and in my desperation, even tried the regular old internet just in case. Just when I thought it was a lost cause, I found this topic on the local message board from a few years back. I spoke of a hot spring to the north of town, tucked away inside the thicket near that nice overlook. Apparently the springs are private property, but the owners seem to let people come and go as they please. Hot springs? I had no idea there were any in Woodcrest. We should definitely check them out. Huh. Well, I hate to dash your hopes like this, but I am of the understanding that they are a more traditional style of hot springs. You know, the kind with a rather specific dress code, if you will. What do you mean, dress code? You expected to bathe in some kind of suit or something? Dom chuckled to himself as Diego's expression grew more and more confused with each passing second. As it would happen, I knew exactly what Dom was suggesting. Diego being Diego, however, had not quite grasped the implication. On the contrary, the only kind of suit allowed in the water is your birthday suit. What? That's like mad gay. I'll have to take your word for it. After all, you of all people would be the authority on that. Eh? Shut up! That's harassment! Dom and I shared a hearty laugh at a flustered Diego's expense before I continued our conversation, leaving Diego to pick up the pieces of his own fragile masculinity. So I take it you aren't planning on a field expedition then, Dom? I wouldn't be so quick to make that assumption, although perhaps only in a specific company. I don't want just anyone seeing the family jewels. You understand. But I did call Axel this morning, asked if he wanted to come. Didn't realize Russell was with him, and, well, it kind of backfired a bit. I don't know how I feel about sharing the water with a shark again so soon, but Russell wants to come along. Axel isn't so sure, though. But, hold on, why are you telling us this? What does it have to do with anything? Oh, right. Sorry with these stories. I get so carried away with the journey that I forgot all about the destination. So, the point. One of the posts on that message board mentioned that the owner had given them permission to be there. They didn't know who he was, but they described him as a well-dressed jet-black raven with strikingly red eyes. Spencer! Who else could it be? Well, with that information in hand, I returned to the archives to hunt for any information I could turn up on the hot springs. I spent a good hour searching in vain, until finally they turned up under a non-existent street address. What I found confirmed that those hot springs were owned by one Spencer Marsden. Whoa, a surname? That's big news! You would have thought so, but adding the surname into the equation turned up nothing that I hadn't already located. In and of itself, knowing his surname proved entirely fruitless. But the information that I had on the hot spring, some things just didn't add up in particular. In particular, the hot springs were officially established 19 years ago. Yet there are several records on file predating this, not to mention that weird street address. The road in question was indeed close by, but the address didn't exist, nor did the hot springs themselves officially have a street address. So, I followed the trail of breadcrumbs back, and eventually, I found out why. The hot springs were originally on the grounds of a private property nearby. That private property used to reside at that non-existent address, but was demolished more than half a century ago, and the address was subsequently disestablished. It wasn't until decades after the demolition that the hot springs were made standalone. From what I can tell, they are the only thing that remains of that property. The rest is nothing more than forest now. But here's the kicker. I managed to locate the demolition paperwork, and guess who the owner of the property was at the time? Spencer? Nope, try again. Remember, the property was demolished more than 50 years ago now. I knew exactly what the answer was going to be. I chipped in, if only to put Diego out of his misery. Let me guess, Solomon Moreau. Bingo. Eh? That's another thing linking those two names together. Surely this can't be a coincidence. My thoughts exactly, and have you noticed that those two names share the same initials? Perhaps that could be a little more than coincidence, but with everything else, I feel like it's at least worth remembering. Weird shit, dude. Any ideas on what all this could mean? Regrettably, we still know too little for any theories to hold much water. but I do wonder if perhaps the records have been tampered with for some reason. We know Spencer has some kind of involvement with the local government. That would at least explain the how, although the why is still very much an enigmatic detail. He's got to be up to no good. Why else would he be doing something like this? We don't know that for sure, Diego, and it's like I said, it's just one of my theories. I have another if you would like to hear it, and the two theories are not mutually exclusive either. Go on, then. Both Spencer Marsden and Solomon Moreau are pseudonyms. Pseudonym? An alias, a false name. This goes a long way to explain why so few records exist for either name. And perhaps it might explain the matching initials as well. Perhaps that is deliberate. Some kind of identifier, maybe? Dude, what if they're the same person? That's not possible. After all, it is not legal to sign for a demolition under the age of 18. And it was more than half a century ago that Solomon signed on the dotted line. If this Solomon is even still alive, he must be very, very old by now. Oh, right. Spencer doesn't look that old. I'd be surprised if he was a day over 30. Yeah, perhaps Spencer inherited the hot springs from Solomon. Maybe the change in title was an inheritance on Solomon's passing. Could he be a relative? A grandparent, perhaps? Although, if there were a death certificate by that name, I would certainly have found it by now. Something to look into, I guess, and come to think of it, say both names are pseudonyms. How do we know they refer to just one person? Is it possible that those names have been used by several individuals, or perhaps even a whole organization? Whoa. Sorry, I got a little carried away there, I think. It's just another possibility from a long, long list of potential explanations. A list that, all going well, will become a lot smaller in the near future as we find out more. Anyway, that is everything for now. Do either of you have any thoughts? Dom took a hearty bite from his kebab, which over the course of our conversation had gone mostly untouched and had no doubt grown cold. As listeners, however, both Diego and I had fared considerably better as Diego greedily inhaled his final donut, and I, who had ordered less food than either of my companions, had long since finished. Diego's mouth was full, his facial expressions documenting the overwhelming sweetness of the cotton candy-flavored donut in excruciating detail. Accordingly, I responded to Dom's question first, allowing them both time to finish their respective mouthfuls. I can't help but feel that every time we learn something new, it only raises more questions. A long time ago, a friend once told me that if a situation seems like that, your perspective of the situation is out of whack. There might be some line of thinking here that we haven't considered yet. Dom nodded in appreciation for the wisdom behind my words, but he, like I, had no idea what that line of thought must have been. But then I remembered something else, something important. It wasn't an answer to my own question, but it was something that might help us find some answers. Hey, Dom, riddle me this. Say Spencer were standing right in front of you. What would you say to him? What question would he ask whose answer would blow this whole mystery wide open? Dom, with impressive restraint and dignity when compared to our rather messier company, delayed his response as he swallowed his current mouthful of kebab. Picking up a napkin, he cleared away the small quantity of barbecue sauce that had escaped from his meal before finally turning towards me with his response. We have to remember that there's still every possibility that Spencer is dangerous. As curious as we all are, we cannot take any unnecessary risks. It just isn't worth it. So, to answer your question, I don't think I would ask him anything. You make a fair point. He's supposed to be coming by the bar today, or so Diego tells me. It seems like he wants to talk to Ty. Finally, Diego swallowed down the very last mouthful of his very last donut, sparing a look of sadness and longing for the delicious meal that had come to an end. With his muzzle caked in icing sugar, Diego delayed his response no further. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all, and I shall see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!